It is a special edition of Legends Territory. Braun and Kratz, thanks to our MLB Players Alumni Association fam for setting up the best former player interviews out there. And for more info on your favorite former players, it's baseballalumni.com. And if you're watching this show, you can listen to this show wherever you get your pods, vice versa. If you're listening, you can watch it on the FT YouTube channel. Ready for this? Bringing in a big bopper. 13 years in the bigs, all with the Phils, 3-time All-Star, Silver Slugger, Rookie of the Year, MVP, NLCS MVP, Home Run Derby winner, and most importantly, 2008 champ. Or maybe even more importantly, friend of Eric Kratz.
That's not as important as the 2008 World Series championship or the 2004 Eastern League Player of the Year. Like, we can't forget that kind of stuff. Like,
that's why you're here.
The piece is here. Big piece.
Big piece. What's going on, Ryan? And we got your boy Eric Kratz for this one. How you doing?
What's going on, fellas? That was great. Doing well.
I don't want to miss anything, and that's why Kratz is here, because he will not just say, oh, 08, I got 04 for you.
Yeah. 2004 was a crazy year in Reading, Pennsylvania, AA. That was, I think, anybody who got to kind of see 2006, my first full season in Philly, Reading was probably like that, but even crazier. I don't know what was going on down there, but balls were just flying out of the park left and right. So that was a lot of fun.
They were not. They were flying out of the park. They were going deep sauce. I mean, Big Piece goes, Howie goes, Oppo Taco and Citizens Bank, and then everybody's like, oh, I'm going to hate on him. He hits the ball to left center like righties were hitting balls to left center. Well, in Reading, they had this walkway in left, and then there's like a berm, and then there's a wall behind that. If you ever go to Reading Phillies, great place to go watch a game, kind of in the middle of nowhere, PA, which is, you couldn't hide anywhere as Ryan Howard in the middle of Reading, Pennsylvania. He was hitting balls off of that wall up above, like the wall that's like, it's like keeping people out of the park area. Like, literally, the man was hitting the ball out of the stadium. So yeah, maybe they didn't put the humidor in the park that year in Reading.
Oh no shot. Reading was a launching pad. So it was one of the best places to play just from the fan standpoint. I think we had like a losing record that year, but it didn't matter because the fans still came out. In full force. I think we had sellouts or close to sellouts. Now we did at that time. I have our first rounder that was on the team. My man G-Flow, Gavin Floyd was on there. So yeah. I think people were kind of showing up, trying to get that autograph before he got up to the league and whatnot. So, but no, I had a lot of fun in Reading, man. Just such a great group of guys. And it's like, some of the best times I've had in baseball were minor leagues, like, going to all the different cities and just, when we were doing it, the bus rides were done. Now I've heard like some of these teams now they get to fly. So, we were roughing it, nice little 16, 17 hour bus rides. So yeah, you got some time to get to know your teammates that way.
Yeah. Very few MVPs or future MVPs spend as much time in the minor leagues as you did. Not saying you were a career minor league lifer, but like you got to experience the Reading to Portland trip, and it's like mid-May, and you go to Portland, and you're like, wait a minute, there's still piles of snow up here. Like, what are we doing? Like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Oh no shot, bro. I'll take you back even further. Like going back to the Sally League, we were in Lakewood, New Jersey, making treks down to Rome, Georgia, on the bus. So it was nice. Like I said, 17, 20-hour bus rides and. Making stops at 1, 2 in the morning at whatever, gas station or whatever was open. And then guys were wide awake at, 3, 4 in the morning when other guys are trying to sleep. So that was a nice little fun bus ride the rest of the way. So those are the times you'll never forget and some of the best times looking back.
As pissed as you were when you had to eat a hot roller at 1 in the morning at a quick stop, you got hot dog on the roller. If everybody doesn't know what a hot roller is, a hot roller, you're pissed. It's funny that you're that pissed during that time, but you never forget that because you are literally bonding with your teammates because you're doubling up. And I'm sorry, Howie, you cannot be doubling up with anybody with those big shoulders. I'd double up with your legs, your calves, but I wouldn't double up with your that broad shoulders, and big old chest of yours. No chance. No room in the
Oh
bus.
no, bro! By that time, like everybody's sprawled out. You got guys laying on the floor. Guys got their feet across to the other section of the bus. Like to get to the bathroom is an obstacle course. Like it was like an American Ninja Warrior trying to get because you're climbing over seats, trying to dodge bodies, and don't let the bus driver hit a bump and you slip because somebody's getting stepped on. Like it's just what happened to try to get to the bathroom, man. It was craziness. So we all had a plan or some kind of program we kind of put together so that everybody could try to get as comfortable as they possibly could on the bus. But like guys, if there was room up top in the little storage area, like the smaller guys would get up there and lay down. So it was whatever you had to do to get comfortable, bro.
This is like, I love it. I love it that you're talking about this because as you know, the accolades you got in your big league career, I tell about these stories, and AJ Przinsky, who's on our normal show, FT, he's always like, I didn't really know about the minor leagues. So I love it that an MVP is all about remembering those stories. But I'm gonna take you back to high school before we go to your illustrious big league career. Because right now you've impacted, like, I'm sure besides Chase in the Philly area, there is kids named Ryan and Howard that were born from 2006 to 2012, that range, because you made such an impact. Well, now all those kids are going through the travel circuit, and you know what they're looking for? They're looking for the D1 scholarship. You know what? Howie didn't have any. What was that like going into that, like that time in your life where you're like, man, like, yeah, all my buddies or I know some people who have scholarships, all that stuff, and you're sitting there like, I like to play baseball.
You know what? It's a completely different time today with scholarships. When we were going through school, and you didn't have you didn't have to have a scholarship until maybe your junior, senior year. Like if you didn't have one, then it was still no worries because it was still time. It's like today, if you're not verbally committed somewhere by the time you're a freshman or a sophomore, it's like you're behind the eight ball. So there's not a whole lot for some of these kids to be able to try to have that opportunity like I did. So where like when I came out of high school, yeah, I didn't have a scholarship. I was offered. I didn't. What happened was I didn't pass like one of my standardized tests in time. I was recruited out of high school, but then by the time I had gotten my stuff together and actually had passed the test, like the recruiting period was pretty much over. So um, went to a couple of schools. Actually went to Southern Illinois Carbondale, did a visit over there, and then went to the eventual school that I wound up going to, Missouri State, which at the time was Southwest Missouri State. And man, like met with Coach Gutton down there, who shout out to Coach G. He's retiring after like 1,000 years down there. He's been there for like 40 plus years. The program has only had two coaches in its entirety. So Coach G went there, played there. So I want to give a shout out to him. He's actually the reason, Kratzy, I learned how to go to the opposite field.
Come on.
So he taught me how to go oppo when I got to college. But the one thing I loved about it and loved about him was he told me straight up, he said, look, we'd love to have you, but we don't have any more scholarships this year. He said, and if you come, he's like, I can't guarantee you playing time because we got two JUCO transfers coming in. And the thing that struck me was I love the honesty, him being up front. But I think the thing that got me was the two JUCO transfers coming in, because I was like, bro, I'm down for the competition. Like you're telling me I don't expect you to just let me come out here and play. Like I want to go and earn it and compete. And so wound up going to Missouri State and, was able to beat out the two JUCO transfers that that came in and was able to start as a freshman, and the rest was history.
The rest was history. But you got drafted by the Phillies. Okay, so fifth round, I think.
5th round.
So now you're 2003. You're like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling it. I like this. Clearwater's hot. I'd like to get out of Clearwater, but you know what? It's fine. I'm doing well. They signed Jim Thome.
Oh,
At the time, the most prolific home run hitter in Cleveland's history. And you're like, he's on the court. He's on the course to be a Hall of Famer. Like, and you're like, wait a minute, like, I can't be catching balls in left field. Like, how did that signing feel? I know you're still only in high A, but you're thinking like, dang, like Tommy's going to be here for a minute. I kind of wanted to be in the big leagues. So how was that for you?
So luckily, going back to high school, I had a coach who was my sophomore coach, and he was also one of my old travel ball coaches. And so sophomore year, I started out, me and another kid that were sophomores started working out with the varsity team. And then they sent me down back to the sophomore squad, and they kept him up because he was a pitcher, third baseman, and we didn't have too many pitchers. He threw probably about like 87, 88. So like at that time, it was like, yeah, you need arms up there. And so when they sent me down to the sophomore team, my coach on the sophomore squad set me aside. He said, look, bro, he's like, I know you're upset, but you got two choices. You can either sing your shoulda, coulda, wouldas and sulk and be upset, or put all your energy and focus into what you need to do to get back up to the varsity squad or whatever. And I said, yeah, you're right, bro. And so I just went and put all my focus and energy into doing what I needed to do to get back up to varsity, and then wound up getting back up to varsity like mid-year, and like obviously like being one of the better hitters on the team. So I took that. That's always been something that I've lived by. And once I got into the situation of, my first full season in Lakewood and the Phillies, I remember hearing it like from my agent at the time. It was like, oh yeah, there's rumors that the Phillies might sign Jim Thome. He's like, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. And then like 3 days later, they signed him. Like, I remember sitting there because it was my first full season. This was like 02. And I just remember sitting there saying like, man, like the fan in me was like, oh my God, like, damn, the Phillies just signed Jim Thome. That's so cool. And then the player that's about to be starting a full season of minor league ball in the Phillies organization that plays the same position is like, damn, they just signed Jim Thome. So I had a decision to make. And I said, look, man, my goal is to get to the big leagues one way or the other, whether that's with the Phillies or if it's in another uniform. So I put all my energy into doing what I needed to do. I knew I wasn't going to get rushed through the minor leagues. So I was like, I just needed to develop and do what I need to do to get to that next level and ultimately get to the big leagues, whether it was with the Phillies or somewhere else.
Did you think it was going to be with the Phillies? Because I know during that time it was veterans. Like, veterans are the dudes, like, they could go out and find another first baseman. They could find another first baseman to play in AAA. Did you think it was going to be with the Phillies?
You know what? I honestly didn't know. I mean, you know how they always say in FIL, like, hey, there's 29 other teams out there. If you're always playing, somebody's always watching. So I was like, hey, there's 29 other teams out there. So my goal is to, try to force their hand one way or the other and control what I could control. And that was just going out there and trying to ball out. And then, really just take it out of their hands to where it's like, I'm not going to give you a choice to keep me down. Like, either you're going to bring me up or you're going to trade me. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things to where it's just like, go out here and go perform and let the rest take care of itself. And it did.
All right. So let's fast forward to, you already hit on your Reading time, hitting all those dingers, going up to AAA, hitting some more dingers. Then you get called up to the big leagues. You did fine. 2004.
Did all right.
Almost 1,000 OPS. People say, small sample size, blah, blah, blah. Look, you got the 19 games that they let you play in, and you absolutely smashed. But then you don't make the team in 2005. Are you back into that same mindset? Oh, I I got to do what I got to do? Or are you a little pissed off?
No, I mean, I knew what it was going to be, and then I knew that they were talking about, potentially trying to have me go and play in the outfield, and they actually sent me to the Arizona Fall League that year in '04, and had Milt Thompson come out
Yep.
and work with me playing outfield. Milt came out for 3 days, and that was it. Like, I played outfield for like 2 games, and then all of a sudden, one of our coaches for our fall league team, Eric Richardson, was there, and I was like, "Yeah, because when Eric saw me, he was like surprised, and I was like, "Yeah, they sent me out here to come play left field." He's like, "What?" So apparently, he didn't get the memo, but Milt showed up, worked with me for a few days. I played a couple games in the outfield, and they were like, "Nah, bro, we gonna keep you at first." I already knew what it was because I was like, they're going to bring me into spring training. They're going to put me in the outfield to show the media that they were trying and all that good stuff. Because you still had the same situation with Burrell. Because
Yep.
now you're talking about trying to platoon me in the outfield, and you got Pat in left field. So I'm like, how's this going to work? So that's where I already knew it was like, this isn't going to work. They're going to have me go work out there and then see what's what. And then I think Charlie like basically looked to bang it and was like, "Nah, I see you as a first baseman, bro." I was like, well, I appreciate that, Charlie. So thanks.
No way Chuck was out there. Well, I really like Pat in the outfield, because he can really catch the ball. No way. Chuck was like, oh boy, I got to put Pat out there.
Right.
Hopefully Rowan can run around. Hopefully Vic can run around in the outfield and help one of you boys out, either Pat or you out in left field. You could have played as well as Pat played out there in the cement shoes.
Man, I'm only going to give you one area. I'm going to give it toward the line. Anything in the middle in the gap, whoever's playing center field, bro, you better pick me up. That's it.
That's Vic's area. All right.
Right.
So now take us to your rookie year. Like, what you hit 16 pumps in the bushes. You're down in Scranton. Were they in Scranton at that time, or were they in
Scranton?
Yeah. You guys were in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, up in Pennsylvania. So you're not far. You're just up the road from Philly. But you hit 16 pumps there, and you finally get called up. What was that rookie season like? You had already been in the big leagues, so you kind of you had felt it out. But new stadium, the Phillies are not quite where the Phillies were going to be the next year where you guys started making a run. But what was that rookie year like for you?
Yeah, I mean, that first year kind of coming up 05. I mean, as you mentioned, started out in Scranton, was just like, hey man, back to business, control what you can control. Thome gets hurt early, go up, and I think I was up for like a couple of weeks, and I think he had some back issues and whatnot, so I was up for a couple of weeks, and then just kind of got out to a slow start. I realized that the grass in Wrigley Field is really thick on the infield, and because I hit a ground ball, man, like I was battling. I think it was like Kerry Wood or Pryor or somebody, and I was battling, bro. And I hit a hard ground ball that just died. I'm like, oh, this is a base hit up the middle. And then next thing I know, I'm turning back right and going back to the dugout. So I had like a slow start, that first kind of stretch, and then went back down. But it was that thing, like once you got a taste, once you got a real taste of being up there and being able to play, and then you go back down, it was just like, all right, I gotta get back up there. And so then when Thome got hurt and was out for the rest of the year, I was like, all right, this is it. This is my time to go up here and just do me. And I remember, I think it was either Todd Zielinski or Salisbury, one of the media writers for up in Philly that asked me, you said, do you feel any pressure, like, trying to fill Jim Thome's shoes, and these are some big shoes to fill? And I said, no. I said, because I'm not Jim Thome. So I said, there's only one Jim Thome. I'm not him. So I know if I do what I'm capable of doing, I think we'll be all right. So went out there, just did my thing, and next thing you know, it was great. And what made it great was we were actually in a playoff push. We were in the hunt, and it was so much fun because we were showing up to the ballpark and everybody was excited. Um, I think the last day we needed to go in and like sweep Washington or something like that, and we did that. And then that's when Houston and the Cubs, I think, were playing because we went in the clubhouse, and Houston was playing the Cubs, and I think one of the guys hit like a hard line drive. We needed the Cubs to win, and I think Chris Burke made the catch at second, and so our season was over because we would have had a playoff, like a one-game playoff with Houston, and that's when they wound up going to the series, and I believe losing to AJ over there.
Yep.
So,
oh yeah,
yeah,
yep. That's when they made it all the way, and AJ swept them out of the building.
yeah.
So now you got your Rookie of the Year. You got the next year, the MVP season. I mean, 58 pumps. 58 pumps. I want to take you to, was that the year when you had the 3 homers against Hudson?
Mm-hmm.
So you hit 3 homers. You come around third base and you hit the Michael Jordan on him. You get were you really in awe of yourself, or were you in awe of yourself because you boys were having fun and you were also getting after it on the field?
I think it was a little bit of both. It was like that game, it was crazy because leading up to that game, I was like 2 for 12 against Huddy. And so, then some stuff just happened to click, and, was able to get into the situation of, the process of elimination with pitches. Because Huddy would always get me out with that cutter. And so, like, once I hit the cutter, then it's kind of like you start eliminating pitches to where it's like, all right, he's going to show it to me, and then you're going to come with a curveball. So now I'm going to look for the curveball. Boom, curveball. Well, now I hit your cutter. I hit your curveball. You got one thing left to do: fastball away. Go fastball away. Went that way. So it just happened to be where the chips kind of fell in my favor that day, and I guess either I was guessing right or doing something. But to have it happen, man, it was such an amazing year. I think looking back at it now, it's like, bro, like how did you do it? Like how did it even happen? So to get that locked in and be able to do that was amazing, bro.
You guys were building momentum with Jimmy already being there, Chase and you establishing yourself, Cole starting to come up. You guys are building that group, not to use the Yankees analogy, the core 4 guys. Did you guys see it after that year when you were MVP of the 2006 season? Did you guys see it like, okay, now we're going to roll? Because Jimmy's comments started firing up some Mets fans. Did you guys talk about that? Were you like, okay, this is it? Like we're bringing 1980s back to the bank right now?
No, you know what? We really didn't talk about it, but I think the thing is that we all just knew. We were all competitors. I mean, the very first time I ever met Brett Myers, I'll give you that story. First time I ever met Brett Myers, we were out and about. It was like fall instructional league, and we were all out in like Ybor City. And get in there. This is like my first fall league or whatever, or second fall league. And Myers is in there. And I go up to him and say, hey, what's up, bro? Like, Ryan Howard, nice to meet you. And Brett. Brett's had a couple. And he's like, I know who you are. He said, and I'll strike you out. Now I'm forgetting, I'm leaving out some words because it's probably a family show. But I was just like, okay. I said, well, we're in the club, but when we get to the field, bro, it's nothing but space and opportunity. And that right there showed me like, this dude is a competitor. I'm like, bro, you might be one of the top prospects in the organization, but I don't give a damn. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? And that is what we had, were guys that didn't care, and they were just true competitors. And when you put that together to where no matter how it was that you went about it or what your character was, at the end of the day, everybody wanted to win. And then when we finally saw it in ourselves, I think that's where things started to change. And then Jimmy goes out and makes the comment of saying, like, hey, no, like, I think we're the team to beat, as he should. And then we wound up doing what we needed to do and wound up getting over the hump and getting into the playoffs that year.
So this is a family show, but you can say what Brett Myers said because we have Brett Myers on the show. So we're all unfiltered here. So whatever you feel like, whatever story you feel like you need to express from your time there is totally good. But since you brought up Brett Myers, and we're talking about some dudes that start making their way into the big leagues, what about the KK story with Brett Myers? What was your role in this?
You just would feel so bad for KK because KK was just abused. He was abused.
Kyle Kendrick.
Yes, Kyle
Kendrick.
And it was just like Brett's life mission to just have as much fun at the expense of Kyle as he possibly could. When they did the whole, hey, you got traded for what's his face, the hot dog eating guy, and,
Kobayashi.
Yeah, Kobayashi. I mean, and everybody was in on it, and it was just like, bro, good luck, man. Like, you know what, you're gonna be fine over there, and just how Kyle would get these blank stares and this blank look on his face, like when Ruben was telling him and Charlie. Oh my gosh, like those guys both deserve like an Academy Award for just how they just laid it on, and then to have the media involved. I mean, I was like, bro, this is too much. But of course, it had Myers all over it.
Was it too far? Did they take it too far? Because I say that because I remember talking to you when I first came up to the big leagues in 2011, and I was like, man, you guys really treat rookies really well. Other teams that I've been on, like, they absolutely crush rookies. I mean, you know how. And you said, you go, dude, all we want to do is win. He's like, if a guy comes up to the big leagues, he's not coming up to just fill a spot. He's coming up to help us win. So we want to make these guys feel comfortable. So do you feel like they took that prank a little too far?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that helps bring you closer, I think, as a team, to where it's like, okay, the amount of relief on his face when he found out he's not going to Japan. He's like, I don't even know. Can they do this? Can they send me to Japan? He had no clue. So, I mean, it brought everybody closer. And for as much as Myers would get on Kyle, like, they were still good to where, they'd still be, everybody had good relationships to where we were still talking and being able to feed off of each other. So, I don't think it was too far. I think it was hilarious, and just having some fun.
Brett said in his Legends territory, his version of this show, while he talked about a lot about beers, the one thing he said about the Phillies team was, you guys were a tight clubhouse, but you didn't necessarily go out to dinner a lot. Was he right on that? Was there something to that? Was it just different ages of guys?
I mean, we were a very tight clubhouse, and like I said, it was because everybody wanted to win. You had all different kind of personalities. You had Shane, who all he did was eat sugar every day. You had Jimmy, who was the swag. You had Chase, who was like the hard nose. Like, you had Myers, who was the asshole, and he would tell you that. Everybody would say it. He's the asshole. You had J-Dub, who was sarcastic. But the thing was, and then you had Pat's just his own entity. And the thing about it is that, again, we all had one common goal and desire, and that was to win. So it didn't really matter about all the other stuff. It was just, hey, how do we come together to win? Now, we did have a lot of guys that were very good on the charitable fronts, because we had guys that had a lot of foundations, and the guys would come out and support each other in their foundation events. And so I think that was very big. We did stuff in spring training where actually that's not necessarily true with what Myro said, because Myro must have forgot. We used to go bowling all the time in spring training. So it was like me, Jimmy, Brett, Milt, and then whoever else wanted to come, we would do bowling in spring training on I think it was like Wednesday nights or something like that. And so it was like we'd get up to maybe 10, 15 guys, whether it was big leagues or minor league guys in camp, and we would all go bowling, and then we put teams together, and losing team had to pay. So again, just more competition, but now this is just outside the clubhouse, which I think continued to bring us closer.
I remember you guys going bowling. I wasn't on the team at that time, but I was over at the Dunedin complex.
Toronto, yeah.
And a bunch of those dudes would, we'd come out and be like, "Oh yeah, it's a Wednesday night. It's a Wednesday night roll." And we always thought Jimmy was the best bowler, but maybe was it you, Peace?
I'd have some moments. Myro was really good. Brett was really good. Yeah, Brett was really good.
Rednecks can bowl. Never knew that.
Yeah, man. He's got a bowling alley at his crib, man. He's got one at his house.
Now that I'm not surprised about. All right. So you said I'm also not surprised about the fact that he said he forgot. But it was all about winning. What was that celebration like in 2008? I asked so many people, what's the champagne like? What was that celebration? The party that I know went into 8:30 the next morning out on the main line at Meyer's house, and where were the other parties at? What was that like? Just the whole scene, not just the game, because we can see you coming in and crushing Lidge and Chooch. But what was that whole after that, the party and everything that you guys were doing?
It was amazing, man. Definitely needed some Visine or Lumify for the eyes, because that stuff kind of stings a little bit. But it was amazing because we had reached the pinnacle. Any kid and any person that's ever played the game, you play this game to win championships. And, we were lucky enough to be able to achieve that, and to do it with that group of guys was something amazing. I mean, obviously the parties just were sheer debauchery. I think we went back to Burrow's place for a little bit, just had drinks and hung out there. And then, obviously the turnout for the parade, to see all these people coming out and thanking us, and throwing beers on the float, and just the show of support from the city, because the city was starving for a championship. And so to be able to deliver that, after that long time period of being able to finally bring a championship to Philadelphia, and seeing the fans all coming out, you got people climbing up, street poles and hanging off buildings and then trees and just all kind of stuff. Man, what was that? 08. Darian was probably 9 or stuff, probably seeing stuff he shouldn't have seen, because for that age. So but it was a lot of fun, man. It was so much fun that just to be able to share that with the fans, and then get in there and get speeches. And J-Dub's got the incredible Hulk fist, and Chase is dropping F-bombs, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
You guys,
it was typical of our team.
It was that is when I joined the team in 11. That is exactly, watching you guys from afar. That's what I saw. It was well, this is exactly the people that you guys portray in the media. Yeah, there might have been some good stories from when you guys were single, running in Philadelphia, all that stuff, but you guys were a genuine group of people. What you saw in the media is exactly what you guys were in the clubhouse, and you guys wanted to win. So during this whole time, you're looking to win, you're competitive, all that stuff. So now we're at 2008. You have 58 homers, 47 homers, 48 homers. Okay, you have an MVP, 5th place, and 2nd place voting in the MVP. Okay, you don't make your second All-Star team until 2009. Just so I'm getting this right. That was in Pittsburgh, right?
The first one was in Pittsburgh. Second one was in St. Louis. So
St.
my
Louis.
hometown.
So your hometown. So that's where I want to go. You're going back to your hometown. Your son, Darian D, is 10 now at this point, 9 or 10 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you're on a trajectory to be a Hall of Famer? Is that something that goes through your mind? Because you are absolutely, you're the most dangerous left-handed hitter in the game. I know Pujols hits from the right side. You're coming into his city, which technically you could tell him it's actually my city because I grew up here outside of St. Louis. I'm a Missouri boy. How are you looking at yourself? Are you like, dude, I am a Hall of Famer at this point? I don't see anything getting in my way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like the way I came out the gates, with, the 58, and I think it was like, 3 more seasons or something like that with 40 plus home runs and 120 plus RBI, to continue to do that. I think it would be hard not to look at yourself or think that that's the trajectory that you're on. St. Louis was cool in the sense of being able to go back for the All-Star game, obviously being hometown and being able to go back home. But it was really special for me because I got to share in that home run derby. I had my other old high school summer ball coach be my BP guy in the home run derby. So, and I wanted to share that moment with him because this is where it all started for me in St. Louis. And he was a big, big part of that. And so I'd asked him to be my home run derby pitcher. And so, of course, he accepted and he was nervous as hell. And I said, D, it's just you and me, just like it was back in the cage. And, we got to the second round and, ultimately Prince Fielder wound up winning. So, but it was a special time going back to St. Louis for that.
All right. So you're talking about big power hitting lefties.
Yeah.
Look at Big Papi. Look at Big Papi. Look at Prince Fielder. Look at you. All dudes that are all-star MVP type of players, and how each of you kind of went off in your own direction. Like Big Papi's a Hall of Famer. You had your Achilles. Prince had the neck injury. How you can't plan for any of that kind of stuff, but how does this shape your legacy as a player in the big leagues? Not just in Philly, but as a player in the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, again, you just never know what's going to happen. Obviously having the Achilles tear and not being able to really like come back the way I wanted to come back from that. It's tough. It's tough, but I mean, that's just what happens. I mean, when you look at Prince's situation where it was, he had to shut it down because of his neck. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I loved playing against Prince. I used to love it, and I loved watching Prince hit homers. You know how Charlie would always say, like, Charlie always loved people hitting homers, and that's even when they hit them against us.
Yep.
I love watching Prince's homers because it was like I knew off the bat, like it was gone. So, but I would always love watching his reaction and like how violent it was. So, to see, him have the injury that he had, me having my injuries. I mean, injuries are part of the game, and that's just part of it, man. Being lucky enough to be able to avoid those injuries and stay healthy and be productive. So, that's just how sometimes that's just how the ball bounces.
So, was there anybody that you had beef with when you played? You said how much you loved watching Prince play, and Chuck loved seeing dingers. I always tell the story about Cliff. When we'll get to Cliff later, but Cliff gave up a homer. He's like, Chuck goes, "Well, thanks for letting me see that, Cliff." And Cliff was like, "What?" He said, "Thanks for letting me see him hit that home run. Like I like that. I like seeing home runs." But Did you have any beef with anybody? Did you have any where you were like, man, like maybe somebody did something to, although Chase always felt like he was going to fight somebody, but
Yeah.
did you ever have any beef with anybody?
No, I think that was Chase's just MO of getting hyped up for the game. You know, but no, I never had beef with anybody. Was always cool. Like to me, it was just always keeping it in the game. You know, like today, guys are able to celebrate more and you know allow their personalities to come out. Right. So I'm all for it as long as you keep it in the game. Like if I get struck out, if a pitcher strikes me out and fist pumps me, then all right, I'm gonna just make a mental note and be like, all right, I'm not gonna go out here and go try to beat the guy up because I feel like he's showing me up. He did what he needed to do. He struck me out. But if I get you the next time I come up and I hit a homer on you, believe there's gonna be a parade around the bases, as there should be. So it's like you keep it in the game and just keep it about the game and don't get like upset and start taking this stuff personal because it's a game. It's a game. Like you get an interception in football, the guys will run 100 yards to the other end zone to go get in front of the camera and celebrate it. Like baseball at that time was like the only sport where you could not celebrate doing something. So I think as long as you keep it, within the game and do it tastefully or whatnot, like man, have fun, bro. Have fun. Raise your game. Make a better pitch. Don't swing at that pitch. So but it does suck if the umpire makes a horrible call and then the guy fist pumps you. That one sucks.
that one's insult to injury. Should we do that more? Should we let the players not let the players play, but like do that? Has the game come far enough, or is this why baseball maybe has lost some popularity?
I don't know, man. To me, it's like I love seeing the energy, and I think that's the difference between guys that go straight to pro ball and guys that go to college. Because college is a little bit more rah-rah. So, like, you're used to when guys hit home runs, guys are jumping out of the dugout and doing all that kind of stuff and, high-fiving and all that kind of stuff. To where now, when guys are hitting homers, yeah, you're seeing them jump over, especially in the playoffs. You're seeing them jump over the rail and running down the rail and getting hyped up and this and that or whatnot. So, I mean, I think it brings more excitement for the players, more energy in that aspect. I know you got a lot of traditionalists that are like, hey, act like you've been there before. But it's like, bro, it's a kid's game. We're playing a kid's game. Like, you got to let your inner child come out, every once in a while and just enjoy the game. Like I said, you're not trying to show people up, but keep it in the game. I'll go back to where this all started when Bautista hit that home run in the playoffs against Texas. I remember watching. I forget the pitcher's name, but
Dyson.
Who was it?
Dyson.
That's right. And so he threw the pitch before, and I remember watching. I was like, "Ooh, you better not throw that down. Throw that again. Like whoever the catcher is right now, you better put some different fingers down because if you throw it again, I'm like Bautista's not. He's not missing that pitch. He's going to hit it out. And he threw it again. He hit it. Right? Now, here's where the issue came into play. I think there might have been a little too much pine tar because his batting glove looked like he got stuck. But when he threw the bat, I think he was trying to throw it back towards his dugout. Like if he would have thrown the bat towards his dugout, there's no issue. But I remember watching it and the bat landed in front of Texas's dugout. Now it's like, oof. I remember being like, oh, yeah, that's not good. Like, I didn't have a problem with him throwing the bat, but when it went towards Texas's dugout, that's where I'm like, issues could arise. So if you're going to flip it towards your dugout, not the other team's dugout.
So you have standards, even though you want to see a parade around the home runs, you have standards. So are we moving in the right direction in the current game in letting these guys' emotions and personalities out, or are we just right now in the Ryan Howard parameters when before we were in the Larry Boa parameters. Like, no fun. You guys don't have fun. You went 3 for 4. What did you do wrong in that bet? Now we're in the Ryan Howard parameters where it's
Right.
like, okay, no flipping towards the dugout.
Right. I think you gotta, again, I think if you can keep it tastefully done, because we got to remember, right? Kids are watching, right? So I've seen it to where these little kids are imitating, they want to go do the Euro steps like Acuna and Ozuna, coming around the bases and doing all that kind of stuff. So the kids are watching and they're emulating what these guys are doing. So again, it's just I think you got to keep it tasteful, but and keep it fun. I think you do have to have a little bit of fun and just let it eat, man. Let that personality out. But just remember that the kids are watching.
All right. Well, the kids were watching in Philly when you guys were in the playoffs. You were watching in Philly these last 2 years when the current Phillies were in the playoffs and making their run, losing in Game 6 of the World Series, losing this year in Game 7 of the NLCS. Which was louder, these 2 years or the 5 years that you guys were in?
Oof.
You can be honest. You ain't hurting anybody's
Man,
feelings.
I would have to say, I'd definitely say it's very close. I mean, '08 was like what? It's crazy now. It's like 15 years ago.
15 years this year.
Crazy,
You guys
bro.
were.
It's crazy. I would say it was probably they're probably about the same. They're probably about the same. I mean, the bank gets to rocking and people just don't understand. I was down here in Atlanta last year. We went to the games, and when the Phillies won and they were going back to Philly, I remember telling Kevin Beal with the Phillies, I said, bro, the Braves don't know what they're about to get themselves into, like going up in the Philly, because this is the first time they've had the playoffs and since we were there. And so I said, the Phillies don't even know what they're getting themselves into because they haven't experienced it. So that was one thing for me was I was super excited for those guys to finally get to experience the other side of the Philly fans and how fanatical they are. And once they get behind you, just like how crazy it is. I think there was a couple guys that were still on the team. I remember like Nola, a few other guys that were there still, like when my last couple years there, and it was awful. It was awful. But for them to be able to experience that, the joy and the jubilation of what the Philly fans are, it's like once you get hit with that, bro, you don't want anything else. And once you get into the postseason and you make it to the World Series, it's like everything else, like nothing else matters. Like, and from the baseball sense, it's like it's World Series or bust. So everybody starts out with that mindset, but once you get there and get a taste of it, and you know what it feels like, it hits different. And Citizens Bank Park hits different. I tell people that. Like when you hear it on TV, like imagine being there in person. It's insane.
It's intoxicating.
It is.
So what's your best piece of advice, or what's the advice you would give to Bryce Harper right now, being the guy in Philly? Because you were the guy in Philly. What kind of advice would you give to Hart?
He's got it right now. He's got it. Just keep being you. Just keep being you. He's playing his game. He's doing his stuff. It's not trying to go above and beyond. He's just being him. He's being a leader. They've got a great group of guys, a close-knit group of guys, and they get it. I think they get it. They've figured out. I think they figured out who they are as a team and what their character is as a team, and I think that's what it takes to have success is when you figure out who you are as a team. Then you're able to come together and move in the direction you want to move. So Hart just needs to keep doing what he's doing, and trust his teammates, play his game, do his thing.
All right. I need you to tell me if I'm wrong and I should stop peddling this around. But I said the person, because teams in the National League East used to build their bullpens to make sure they could get Ryan Howard and Chase Utley out. And I said, I'll go even one on top of that. Ryan Howard created the shift in the big leagues, because you were one of the first people that I ever saw dudes like start to shift, like putting dudes out in right field. So am I right or am I wrong? And how much would your career have changed had they not had they banned the shift sooner when you were still playing?
So they were shifting Barry first, Bonds.
Okay, that's
So
fair.
that was the
That's fair.
first where I had seen teams shift, was they were shifting Barry, and then it fell upon other, I guess, below average speeded runners. I didn't like think of myself as a below average runner, but not those that weren't very swift of foot from the
Fleet of
left
foot.
side. Right. So, but I think that it started with Barry. And then, yeah, I mean, it was a difference maker, because I remember having those conversations with Milt and just saying, like, man, I feel like I'm losing like 50, 60 hits a year, like from the shift, because you're battling and balls up the middle, or seeing eye singles or hard line drives that are in the outfield, and guys are making plays on them. Like, those are supposed to be hits. And because I always thought that, like, once the ball leaves the infield, if a guy made the play and he threw it away, to me, I'm like, that's a hit, bro. You're not. He's not playing routine second base. That's like trying to have the right fielder throw you out from first, from right field. It's a different throw. But and I told my wife, I told Crystal, I said, watch what happens. I said, once I get out of the game, they're going to switch this up. They're going to get rid of that shift at some point. Watch. Because guys' numbers were struggling, or were all going down. Like, the quality of players and people's numbers were going down, that it was really starting, I think, to damage the product of the game. Because if you remember, Bryce made the All-Star team and he was hitting like 216.
Yep.
I was like the Biggie and Tupac are doing that stuff, bro. I was like, hey, I can hit 220, 240. Put me in All-Star. Like, I'd have been a 9-time All-Star. But it's crazy, because when you look at the game from that aspect, right, and you look at the game from when we were playing, like, at first base, you had Pujols, you had me, you had Lance Berkman, you had Carlos Lee, you had Derek Lee, Adrian Gonzalez. Like, bro, the amount of first basemen at that time, it was like trying to make an all-star team was like, it was insane. But everybody was hitting. In order to make an all-star team, you had to be hitting like on the low 290. So, when averages went down and strikeouts and people stopped caring about strikeouts, I was like, well, damn, I wish they would have not cared about strikeouts when I was playing, because that's all I kept hearing about was like, I didn't get any Cy Young consideration for striking out almost damn near 200 times. Like, what's going on? So it's like me and Mark Reynolds. It's like, it's funny because pitchers can win the Cy Young and the MVP, but like me and Mark Reynolds didn't get any kind of Cy Young consideration for striking out damn near 200 times. So it's like, let's make it fair, guys. Let's go. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I like that.
But
I like that.
That's where you learn, man. But the strikeouts were a part of the game, and it was just interesting that with the shift, I think them eliminating the shift, in my mind, no doubt, I'm a Hall of Famer. My average, I'm probably somewhere in the 280, 290 range. You're giving me more hits, you're giving me more RBIs. So, in my mind, yeah, I would probably be a Hall of Famer if there's no shift.
And it's a good call. Hey, I'm with you, and it's also a good call on damaging the product, because it was not pretty to watch. I'm telling you. I mean, from a fan perspective, it got ugly to watch on the field, and it's not like other sports didn't adjust and evolve with the times. We were just slower on that department. So last one for me is on the slowness there. What if DH was an option in the NL for your entire career as well? Obviously, you could do your thing at first, but number one, give the legs a blow. Number two, the whole Thome situation that we were talking about earlier. Well, we got a spot for you. Come on down instead of your boy KK getting up at the plate in the 9 spot.
Yeah. No, you know what? It changes that dynamic because it's going to be able to add, 3, 4, 5 more years on a guy's career to where they can continue to play. And it's kind of like, it's almost like a partial day off when a guy just can go in there and go and hit and not have to necessarily go out into the field, so they can kind of rest their legs and rest their body just a little bit, and they're going up there and just going to hit. So, I think when teams are now going to sign these guys to these large long-term deals, that definitely plays a factor to where it's like, okay, well, if he can't, if he's not as mobile and can't get him out on the, on defense, well, at least we can keep his bat in the lineup as long as he's still producing. So, that definitely, had that been there when I was still playing, like, yeah, I probably could have eked out another 2-3 years and shut-pieced it.
Yeah, and you would have been up sooner too. And I mean, we keep making the Bryce comps, but this past season, Bryce gets to come back and be at DH, and we get to have one of our superstars back in the sport quicker. I mean, that's the move.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, Kratzy, what do you think in terms of, what was your thoughts in terms of pitchers hitting and as to the DH? I mean, I like the DH, but at the same time, it's kind of like when I was playing, it was almost like, for the most part, 98% of the time, it was an out. It was a guaranteed out at the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, and those dudes, they would always hit that early BP while we're stretching, and they're out there like, oh man, like, did you see that one? Like Cliff and Cole, they could put the ball in the seats, and then Doc every once in a while would lift the ball to the outfielder, and KK was like, he was like trying to be like Chase up there. So no, I don't want to see those dudes hit. Like, it's funny to watch them hit, but I'm not out here to, like, there's plenty of dudes grinding away in the minor leagues that want to hit dingers in the show.
Right.
I don't need to see Cliff Lee trying to hit a homer in the game, trying to have all these competitions in BP with Doobie was pitching to him. Rich Doobie, the pitching coach, was throwing BP to him. No, I love the DH. I love it.
We were like, hey, hit that ball in the seats. All right, hey, show me that bunt.
Yeah.
Get that bunt down.
Get that bunt down. Hey, go pick up the balls too.
Top of the cage.
Yep.
Amazing. Well, Ryan, this was awesome, dude. It was great to catch up with you. We appreciate it. Obviously, awesome to have Kratzy kind of reminisce with you too. Keep doing your thing, and thanks for joining us, man.
No, appreciate you guys for having me, man. Had a blast always. Kratzy, always fun, man. Catching up. Got to do it more, bro. Got to do it more.
Absolutely. But you live in Hotlanta now. But I gotta say, I wasn't sure. That hairline is looking tight. Like,
man, I try to keep it crispy, baby, like a 2-piece with a biscuit. Now, come on, now. I gotta get it cleaned up a little bit. Gotta get it faded up.
That is a nice. You got good for you at your age. Just turned 44. Love that.
Trying, man. There's some spots. There's some stuff trying to creep up there, bro. It's trying to creep.
Oh, we don't see it. That lighting is perfection right now.
That's why I gotta stay over here. I gotta keep you right here. If we go above, man, it's gonna get a little
we don't
suspect.
have the drone view. We're gonna keep that out. We're not there yet. First year of the show, we're not there yet. But
that's right. No drone shots.
Not yet. Thanks to the MLBPAA for setting this all up. For more on your favorite former players, baseballalumni.com is the spot. Thanks again to Ryan Howard, and for Kratz on Braun. We'll see you next time on Legend Territory.